Hi, everyone. As Fran said, my name is Elona. I'm a technical support manager here at Zahn. And today we'll be going over a few features in MillBox. Some are old, some are new. So hopefully they're useful for all the attendees. So we will start with going over the MillBox configuration. Sorry. Technical issues. We'll start with covering some of the MillBox configurations. There's a few features that I think are underrated that have been there for a while, and I hope you can find use for them in your software. Yes, I am. So some of the features are auto-archiving your CAD files. We'll go over how to delete old files or archive them if you're nervous about deleting them. We'll cover some interface options that can be turned on or off to make your user interface more user-friendly and cleaner looking. We'll go over support pin options. There's a lot that can be automated there. I see a lot of times they're being changed manually, and customized blocks. Then we'll go over strategy editor. That's one of the newer features. Not new, it's been out for a while, but it's newer to most users, and there's a lot of hype about it, and everybody wants to learn more. So I hope I can cover as much as I can. And under strategy editor, we'll cover tool configurations, going over what tool options you can choose. We will go over how to select or unselect strategy options that are available. Show hide strategy options in strategy editor, or when you get the option to start the calculation. And then finally, we'll go just over a couple nesting tips to avoid errors or to fix errors that could have happened. So we'll go over minimizing angles to avoid calculation errors. I know that's one error that comes up quite often, whether it's while you're doing the calculation, or sometimes you'll see it on the milling side. It says overran angle limits. If you're familiar with that error, we'll go over how to try and avoid that. We'll go over the object and support pin positioning, so we can avoid collisions or objects falling out. And then finally, we'll go over checking curves and cylinders for hybrid abutments, within crowns, any restorations with the screw hole, basically.
So Elona, before we get started, we do have the results of our first poll, which was, are you currently using MillBox? And from what the results are, 40% are using and 60% of our listeners are not using at this time.
All right, sounds great. So this will be beneficial to both, absolutely. So whether you're thinking about what cam to get next or how to optimize what cam you're using now, which are those that are using MillBox, there will be a lot of information that will be covered here. Some may be a little bit more advanced, so if you have questions, please feel free to ask, and we'll cover them all at the end. But I'm looking forward to bringing in all of those that don't already have MillBox. I promise you'll like it. All right, so we'll dive right in. I have a lot to cover. There we go. All right, so MillBox configuration. For those of you who don't know, in the more recent versions of MillBox, you can access the configuration menu under Tools. There's no passwords required. There's a lot that can be done there. Definitely be careful with what changes you make. The most important advice that I can give is write down whatever changes you're making, so that if something goes wrong, you know how to revert back, or call your support team so they can help you revert back and fix if anything is broken. All right, so in the configuration menu, the first thing we're going to cover is how to auto-archive CAD files. This, of course, has to be in line with your CAD software as well. I'll cover mostly 3Shape because that's the majority of the combination we have with our customers, but this certainly can be accomplished in ExoCAD and other CAD software as well. There are two things that can be done in this menu. So the first one says automatically archive and move imported .stl files. And you can choose only that, or you can choose both options. And the second one is to also auto-archive construction info files, QXZ files, PTS files, any supporting files that are generated over the CAD software along with the STL. So I'm going to open up MillBox real quickly here. Basically, when you're going into, let me see if I can find an empty one. Yeah, we can do this. When you're going to import your STL, there's two different kinds of manufacturing directories that I run into. So there's one where you may have all of your files dumped into the same location. All right, let's move this over here. This is probably the least space. So you have the manufacturing directory where you dump all of the files as generated from your CAD software, or you have one that's a little bit more organized, which could be separated by material, it could be separated by case, anything of that sort. So here's an example of one. So my manufacturing directory 2 has pretty much all of my cases. Okay. So if this is what you have, then the first option that goes over just deleting the STL files is the right one for you. If you select the second one, it will also delete everything else that's in this folder. However, if you have the option to manufacturing directory 1, where you have different materials, and materials not so necessary, but if you have different, different folders for each case, which is a very commonly used method for generating CAD output for 3Shape, then you want to use the second option as well, as that will delete the entire folder from your list. What's the point of this? Well, if you have a manufacturer directory that's probably been there for years, that you've been using the CAD software, you have a long list that you have to scroll through to find your cases. One, it slows down the system when it's trying to open it up here, because there's a lot more cases that it needs to load versus only those that need to be loaded. For 2, it's more efficient because you don't have to worry about, whether you've milled something or not. You don't have to keep track or take notes. You just know that everything that's showing up here is what needs to be milled, and it's just easier to get to. So out of deleting that information will keep your queue a little bit more clean and more organized. Not to worry about the delete word. Those are not technically deleted, they're auto-archived. The auto-archived can be unzipped and brought back, or you can also go back to your CAD software and regenerate the STL. So there is no concern about losing that file once it's auto-deleted. So I'll show you an example. I'll go ahead and import this John Doe A3 coping as a coping. All right, and once I have that selected, calculated, and milled, if I go back to create a new project, that item should no longer show up under my manufacturing directory because it's not something that I need to mill. So if I go back and create a new job, and it doesn't matter which mill you're using really, since they're all using the same manufacturing directory. Let's see, I was in transitions. Oh, that's the wrong one. Manufacturing directory 1. All right, so my A3 John Doe coping is gone. All of these can be sorted by name as well. So as you can see, my A3 John Doe coping is gone. Or they can be sorted by date modified. In the option of having everything into one folder, so all the STLs into one folder, as I showed in manufacturing directory 2, you have a little bit more sorting options, as it should give you the optimized height as well, so that you know to sort the units by height, so you know which ones to mill in which size block. Another thing that I recommend is how you generate your case IDs in your CAD software is important, especially what you start with, because that will help you in the sorting process too. So if you do a lot of pre-shaded disks or multi-layered, then adding that the shade and the beginning of the STL or the case number, which also will be included in the STL, will give you the option to sort those files by shade, so you can quickly get to the ones that you need to mill in the same disk and not have to worry about scrolling through. But again, if you're auto archiving, scrolling through will be a breeze because you will only have so many left in there. This is definitely a great option for especially high volume customers, but even if you're doing a few units a day, it's just easier to navigate through what you need to do instead of what you already did and worrying about whether it's done or not. All right. So again, under tools, I might have that open already. No, tools, configurations. And it's always best to consult your support team to try and figure out which option is best for you and how to configure it so that it works correctly from CAD to CAM. So that's the beauty of it. We support everything from start to finish, so we can assist with the entire process. It does take a little bit to open up the configuration menu, especially in my laptop. It's not meant to be for production. All right, so scrolling down under the STL imports option, right here we have the automatically archive or move import STL, which is for manufacturing 2, which has all of the files in one, and then archive additional CAD files if you have them separate. So it removes the entire case folder, not just the STL. Okay, so the next thing is deleting or archiving old files. So in the same configuration menu towards the bottom under Mailbox File Maintenance, you have the option to delete or archive old files. And you have the option to choose a number of days of files that you want, or how old the files that you want to delete are. I have it set to 30. I have no reason to keep the files. These are only the project files. So basically, if you don't see yourself ever going into Mailbox and opening a case that you previously nested, then there's no reason to keep them. They're slowing down your system. They're using up space. Also, if you do go back to look at previous cases, the less cases you have there, the easier it will be to load the list of cases to look for, instead of having everything saved there forever. So I definitely recommend this option to just keep things efficient and keep your computer clean. Interface options. So in the same menu configuration, on the left side, you will see interface options. So there's a couple things that can be done here. So one is you can turn on options to show up in your tools menu on the top in the middle of the case. So any one of these, if you select them, they will show up here. If you notice that your stabilizer is missing for any of the bridge options, you can always turn that option here. Of course, there are a lot more options that might not be listed here that we can add. For that, you would need to reach out to your support team, so we can work on that. And as far as removing what's already there, also please reach out to your support team and we can assist with that as well. And then the bottom option will give you the ability to hide or show, by default, usually they're all visible, any of the undo or redo button or the tools under your tools options. So if you're going under tools and there's always just 3 that you're using, then hiding the rest of them that are never in use will help you get to those 3 tools that you do need faster, rather than looking through to see where they are. Granted, if you do it all the time, then you know where those tools are, but these are not frequently used tools, so it's hard to remember where the position is without going through and looking which ones you do need to use. So I definitely recommend that to keep your system cleaner and more user-friendly. All right. And then another configuration that, that you can do is support pin options. Very frequently, I see customers manually changing the pins, whether it's the number of pins that you need for every object type, whether it's which color you want to use. Some just delete all of them and start over, some change the size. So all of those can be customized here. You can choose any color you want for the support pins to be automatically added. You can choose the number of the pins, and you can choose what size you want. So there's a few customers I've noticed that have a lower diameter connecting to the crown to avoid that manual finishing, and higher on the offset wall. Any of those can be automatically set for you, so you don't have to constantly do it with every project or with every object. Disable automatic support pins. So the second square over here will allow you to start with a clean slate, so no support pins at all, and you can decide what you want to do and where you want to place them from the beginning. Another area that this can be changed, and I'll talk about the Control D menu in a little bit more, but there is a function that's Control on your keyboard and the letter D. And that will give you the list of the blocks that you have available. So another place to change the support pins, so if you want it done per size disk instead of for all, you go under your disk and click Edit. And here's where you can change the default diameters for the sprue. So, it's possible that for a size 12, 14, a 1.2 pin or 1.5 all-around pin is safer to use than on a size 20 or 25 pin. If that's what you want to do, that option is available there. The beauty of the automation of the pins is that you can be done per material, per object type, or you can have it applied on the bottom of the screen here. You'll notice you can have it applied to all materials or apply to all object types. So you don't have to do it multiple times for all of your units. Right? And customized blocks. So this is a very interesting and very easy feature. Why use customized blocks? If you are a user that uses multiple type of, let's say, zirconia discs, so if you use Zerlox and use Katana, and any other zirconia discs, and you want to keep those separately in MillBox, to quickly get to them, to have an idea of how many you have used for each unit, then this is a great option for you. And as I mentioned, we'll go back to this Control D menu. So I'll go back to MillBox and Control key and letter D will bring me to my blocks. And all that you need to do, and this can be even if you're missing a size, for example, but all you need to do is find a previously created disk. So let's say I'm going to create a zirconia, and it's going to be multi-layered. So you have a standard, which is not multi-layered basically, and then you have the multi-layered. So I'll create a standard, I'll create a zirconia multi-layer disk, and I can choose any size that I want. So I'll start with the 12, and I'm going to say copy this, and I will name this Katana HTML. And yes, I want the size to be 12, and I don't want to change anything else. So I'll say OK, and then we'll show up on the bottom. And then if you want multiple, you can copy again and increase the sizes to whatever it is you need here. And once you click Save, this will restart your software and the Katana will appear. I'm going to create a couple more disks. I'll create a standard as well. And one thing that I want to show you, let's see, where's my standard zirconia? Here we go. One thing that I want to show you, something that comes up quite frequently actually, are issues with milled units being too short or too tall. So out of occlusion or in occlusion. Usually, that definitely has a lot to do with scanning, but there has been many instances where this is related to type of zirconia having different shrinkage factors for the X, Y, and Z. So if you notice that your fits are perfect and nothing else is wrong as far as contacts go, and the only issue is the height, check your zirconia. If you do have multiple shrinkage factors, there is an option right here. So if you're creating a disk or editing an existing disk, towards the middle of the options, you have this scale behavior. And by default, it's set to ask user single factor. This can be changed to ask user X, Y, and Z factors. So ceramic zirconia is one option, and I'm not sure what else is out there that requires these three, but if it is what you're using, it's very important that these factors are entered correctly for the proper shrinkage and the proper fitting of the restorations. So I'm going to create that too, and I will save that and let my software restart. Maybe a minute. Probably doesn't help that I have multiple mailboxes open either. There we go. All right, so now if I go to create a new job, so it's back here. Now I should have my, yeah, there we go, my Katana HTML that I added. And I didn't change the name of the unit that I added with the multiple shrinkage factors. So I won't be able to, oh, here. I think this was it because I have two 18s. I forgot to change the name, but this is the new unit that I added with a multiple shrinkage factor. So now when I click here, it has the multiple options for X, Y, and Z scale, as opposed to just the Z scale, which you're normally used to, or just a scale factor, which you're normally used to. Okay. Another thing that I wanted to mention about the having different type of materials created in MillBox. If you're using, or if you're thinking about using DW Index, I know that's focused more towards Roland customers, but if you're thinking about using that, having the details in your CAM software will be very beneficial when you're using DW Index to monitor your disk usage and everything else. So. Another thing that I wanted to show you while here in the stock is that if you select the disk before selecting the STLs and then going back to importing the STLs, you will have a visual of the optimized height that tells you exactly whether those units are going to be fitting there or not. Of course, that option is only available if you do have the manufacturing directory 2 option, which shows all of the STLs in the same location. So if it's green, it definitely fits in the disk. If it doesn't, it will show up in red. I chose a very large disk, and I have mostly small restorations here, so nothing will show in the red. But that's a very helpful visual tool to use as well if you have high volume. Okay. In the import STL, you will notice that I have multiple folders here. So another efficient way of getting to your files faster, especially if you're high production lab. As I mentioned, in CAD system, you have the option to separate the units by material as well. So if you want to add the couple folders that you use the most and then leave the rest in the manufacturing directory as is, you can just get to those folders that you have. So let's say I use transitions all the time. So I'm going to select and click and drag it over here. And now I have quick access to those most important folders. I don't have to scroll through everything from my main manufacturing directory. All right. So that was all as far as configuration goes. We'll jump into strategy editor and go over what strategy editor is and what it can cover.
That's great, Elona. Before that, can we launch our second poll question? Is that okay?
Yes.
Excellent. Here we go, everybody. We'd like to know if you have the most up-to-date version of MillBox. You can start answering now. Thank you.
Okay, so as I mentioned, strategy editor is available in the newer versions, the 2021 and 2022 software, not available in older versions, unfortunately. So we will go over what it is, what it does, and how you can use it, or how your support team can help you use it to make it work best for you. So in strategy editor, there's the way to get to it is from the configuration menu. So same as we got to the general settings and the support pins. So there's a strategy editor option. Strategy editor also is an advanced feature, so you must have the advanced version of MillBox to be able to access it. So the strategy editor on the top left, we'll start with one, which is your machine list. So you'll have the list of all of the machines, and this is based on a Roland machine, of course, but if you have different machines, it will show whatever it is that you're using. So if you're making changes to your strategies, you will start by selecting the machine list and then move on to selecting the material, because you can customize your strategies by material, of course, by machine and by restoration type as well. And the third choice will be your restoration type. So if you're making the changes just for hybrid abutment, just for screws and crown, or just for bridges, depending on what it is that you're changing, you will need to select the restoration type there. Once that is selected on the window number 4, so where the summary is, it will show you a list of all of the operations that are available for that restoration type. And you can have them by execution order, so then the order they will be milled, or you can have them in grouped order. So when grouped, it will be all of the roughing steps, all of the finishing steps, all of the anatomical rest mill steps grouped together. And then on in 5, it will have the strategy filters. So the filters, again, will be all of the milling steps, if I can call it that. And you can select, in this case, I selected roughing, and it will give me all of the options for roughing. The exclamation point you see here is in regards to what you also see in number 6. So new parameters never edited. So a new strategy was released just last week, and our R&D team is working on having those configured and implemented. But whenever you're running a software update, which come out quite frequently, not all of them will have a new strategy, but those are quite frequent as well, you will be notified that there's a strategy update available as well. And once you run that strategy update, it will tell you if there is new steps that need to be configured or not. So let me open up my Mailbox real quick.
While you're doing that, Elona, we do have the results back from the poll, and it seems that 75% of our attendees do have the updated version and 25% do not.
That's great. And the majority are, so you already have these, most of these options. I'm not sure if you have the advanced feature or not, but you know, having the latest will give you the latest options for strategies as well. So your support team can help you with configuring that. Definitely, if you're interested in getting the advanced option, if you don't already have it, reach out to your sales team. They will go over all of the benefits. I'm only showing a couple, but there's a lot of options that the software has that are features only available for advanced, that are mainly targeted towards making your work more efficient. So have that conversation with your sales team and see, you know, what works for you if you don't have the advanced feature. And if you're not on the list of software, definitely recommend it. There's new updates coming out all the time, and it's updates to, you know, new features. It's update to new strategy options, new materials, new objects, new mills, as the 53 DCI is coming out, or 53 DC is coming out. So staying current with the software is definitely important. All the software updates or all the software tests are done based on the latest software. So if you're upgrading your CAD, you might run into issues with your CAM, and you know, it's best not to wait until that happens to work on your update. So let me go back to configuration and strategy editor, so I can show you where you can find your strategy version as well, not only your software version. So strategy options. There's a lot of options. That's why it's taking a while to load. All right, here we go. So I believe I updated 52D. I wanted to try and find a machine that I haven't updated the strategy for, so I can show you what it looks like. Yeah. All right, here we go. So this one has not been updated. I only updated the 52D and the 51D. So when you are in strategy editor, you will notice right here the strategy version, and probably the numbers won't mean much if you don't know what the latest version is, but this arrow with an exclamation point is an indication that an update is necessary. And all you need to do is first, of course, update to the latest version. I believe the latest as of right now is November 5th or early November this year. And when you click on the strategy, it automatically updates and you will get the check mark. And you'll notice it went from 233 or 231 to 233. And this is where now I get the exclamation point for some of the steps that are new or new options were added. However, they are not configured to work with the tool sets. So again, R&D is working on it, so we can release those as soon as possible. So as you can see, they're always staying busy, but new updates are being released quite frequently, as I mentioned. And one way to see what is new in the strategy options is to click on the information bar right next to it, or button right next to it, and it will open everything that's new, not only in the latest version, but if you never had a chance to look at what's new in the older versions, those will be listed there as well. So you can see, what will be optimized, what new object types might be available to mill, like when the overstructure came out, for example, a while back. So these are good information to review whenever you have a software update. All right. Let's go back. And all right, so we covered the strategy filters. And like I mentioned, these are the new parameters that have not been configured. And under box 7, let me maximize this, you will have all of the strategy options based on machine, material, restoration type you selected, and the strategy filter. If strategy filter is not selected, all will show here, but it'll be pretty hard to go through all of them. So I recommend using the filters to get to the specific areas that you want to change. And then in 8, you can see the strategy name, the strategy version, as I showed you, whether it's up to date or not, the information, and the date that it was edited. So in this case, this was edited the 15th because that's when I clicked on the check mark, not that that's when the strategy was released. All right, so we'll start with some of the things that you can do here. One of the most common ones, I would say, is assigning tool to an operation. You can assign just about any tool to any operation. So if you want to rough and finish with a 2mm tool and not use a 1mm tool, that's an option. If you want to use flat tools for hybrid abutment instead of the ball tools, that's an option. There's many things you can do here. So when you click on Assign Tool to the operation, a new window will pop up with all of the tools available for that operation, as well as which one is selected. And you can change it to whichever one you want. If a tool that you are interested in using is not there, you can always edit by clicking on the plus sign. So, if you are milling PMMA and your PMMA bridge option does not have a 3mm tool, you can add the 3mm tool or switch to the 3mm tool if it's available. Of course, this is a little bit risky, so definitely, be careful or consult with your team. You have to make sure that the tool that you are selecting is validated for the mill you're using, the material you're using, and the operation you're using, right? You don't want to be using the 0.3mm tool to rough a PMMA, and you don't want to use the 4mm tool on a 51D when it's only rated for the 53D because 53 DC, because that type of spindle can handle it. So make sure that what you're choosing is a valid option to use for the material machine that you're using and the object type that you want to build. So I will go over that a little bit. So I'll just change the flat tool, for example, for a hybrid. Contain crown. Did I miss it? There we go. All right. And under screen crown, I want to set the emergence profile. Actually the finished plan. I'll click on Assign Tool to the operation. Oh, sorry. I have to choose that here. We'll do the top, Assign Tool to Operations. Now I can switch between cylindrical ball or cylindrical flat tool. So if I want to use flat tool, if you have those tools available, this is where I would make the change. And again, the changes can be made to, the tool type, the tool size, and whichever operation that you want. So, of course, you have to start off with a single restoration type, but not to worry, you don't have to do that for every restoration type and every material and every machine. Those can be copied. So once you're done with choosing the correct strategy options or configuring the right tools that you want to use for each strategy step, you can then go into copy object strategy, which is right next to Assign Tools. And when you click on that, it will give the option to copy configuration or add. Add would be if you have multiple MillBox stations and you want to extract it from one station and then add it to another. So if you're making the changes within the same PC, you would use a copy configuration, and then you would choose which step you want to copy. And of course, you can choose all of them if you want to. Choosing all of them might take a little bit longer to copy. So if you only change one step, it's probably best to just copy the one step. And then the next step is to choose the object type that you want to copy to. So if you made the change for a screw retained crown and you want to copy it to a screw retained bridge, this is where you do it. You probably don't want to copy the screw retained crown options to a coping because they don't really have the same strategies. All right, and the next thing you can do is copy from, like once you're done with configuring all of the object types, you can use the copy material strategy. So this will give you the option to copy any changes that you might have made in zirconia into PMMA and everything else. This only changes the tool sizes. It doesn't change anything else as far as what's being used, what type of tools or speeds and things like that. So again, copy material strategy, and then we'll choose the copy configuration, and then we'll choose the material that we want to copy to. And last but not least, we have the copy machine strategy. So this will give you the option, if you have multiple machines currently running and you made the changes for a 52D, now you can copy all of those changes to your 52D CI machine if you also have that. So you don't have to manually do it. So when we click on that, it will give us the option to either copy the complete configuration or export it so we can bring it into another station or import it from another station. Once we click OK or the check mark, we'll get the option to copy configuration or add configuration. And then once we select the copy configuration, it will ask us which mill to copy to. One thing to be very mindful of here is that you'll notice each machine has different names that includes the tool sets. So you definitely don't want to copy a 52D Sierra tools into a 51D Prima tool. So make sure that whenever you're making that copy, it goes from one mill with the same tool sets to the other mill with the same tool sets. So you will need to configure them by tool set basically. All right. Another thing that you can do in Strategy Editor is select or unselect strategy options. So these are all of the defaults that you want your machine to do. So things like you might have noticed when you start a calculation, on top of course, it's going to do the roughing and the finishing. Those are automatically selected for you, but it also gives you some extra options to choose from. Like for example, mill undercuts, 3+2 or 5 axis. It gives you the option to use the 0.3 tool to mill either the anatomy or embrasures, contacts. So you can, if you find yourself always selecting the 0.3 tool to be used, you can make it so that it's always selected for you. So you don't have to manually do it each time. You don't have to worry about forgetting to select it or unselect it in case you're not using the 0.3 tool. I don't know how if it's happened to you, but quite often I see the mill throwing an error that there's no 0.3 tool available because customer forgot to uncheck the 0.3 tool and they don't actually have a 0.3 tool in the mill. So those can all be automatically configured for you, so you don't have to manually select anything. Another thing that you can do here is show or hide the options. So if you never change what options you're choosing when you're starting the calculation process, then you can hide all of them. So you won't have a window pop-up that you have to click OK to. It probably makes it easier for, especially if you're training new techs that have joined your team. Just if you never make any changes to your strategy, make sure that you have all of the defaults selected and hidden, and you never have to worry about anything else. So that's basically an overview of Strategy Editor. Of course, there's a lot more to it, a lot more that can be learned. Let us know if you need more in-depth training or if you have any further questions about it. But I just wanted to cover some of the most used things that you can do like on a daily basis pretty easily. So we'll cover a few tips and tricks, and I'll try to keep it under 10 minutes. So one thing that comes up quite often is customers get an error during the calculation or during milling that says overran angle limits. Or they will notice right away that the angle is very high, as shown in the top screen usually when you click the unit, and they are wondering what to do. So the way that the axes work on a Roland, and that will be different per mill, and of course the position will change depending on that, is the A-axis is the one where the disc flips 180, right? So while it has a 30-degree limit, it really doesn't have a limit because it flips 180. So a lot more lenient on that. You can go above on the A-axis. The B-axis, on the other hand, is the unit moving back and forth, and that definitely has limitations. So you can't go very far. One thing that you can do to reduce the angles of your restorations is, and that especially comes up with all-on-fours or screw cane bridges, where you will have screw channels pointing in all directions. So one thing that you can do that works majority of the time is find the hole that has the highest angle and position that in the 3 o'clock or the 3 o'clock or the 9 o'clock position. So as you can see on the left side is how the software imported the unit. It's got angle 16. Those are perfectly acceptable. This is one example I could find. I couldn't find one that has higher than 30 angles. But you will notice that when I position the unit more towards the 3 o'clock position, the angle B anyway is much lower. So just keep playing with that rotation. Let me show you if I can open it. Oh. I'll open a bridge. And it's best to position it before you add the stabilizer to determine what the best angles will be. All right, so you will notice that if I try to rotate the unit, the angles up top change. So just reposition that unit in the 3 or the 9 o'clock position usually is what works best. So just check those angles. That will help you with avoiding any milling errors or calculation errors. Another thing that you can do, especially to avoid collisions, is on a larger size discs, increase the offset. So that's this option right here. The higher the offset, the more room it will give the tool to go at angles. So not only will have less risk of collisions or it rubbing against the offset walls, but it will also give it more room so that it reaches more areas to mill more detail, basically. So definitely for any discs 20 and up, I would increase the offset, but sometimes depending on the size of the object that you're milling or the angle of it, even lower discs, I would recommend increasing them. Object pins. Very often I see multiple pins for bridges. It's really not necessary. Usually it's one every other, but sometimes even less is okay. Very important that the screws in between the stabilizer and the bridge are solid blue, not red. You don't want those cut. And also very important that you always put pins in the back of the stabilizer. Otherwise, that weight is all dependent on whatever pins you have in the front. So what you see on the right is probably the best way to add those pins. Also, when you're adding pins to even single units, adding those pins really close to each other, like on the left, will cause the tool to be trapped in between those. So try to position them a little bit further than, as far as they can be, basically. Understand we want to make sure we don't, use the contact areas for pins, but try and position them as far as possible. One of the most important things that I can mention about hybrids or screw-retained crowns or bridges is just checking to make sure that everything is showing visually. So a hybrid abutment will always have the red cap, which is covering the screw channel. We'll have a green cylinder in the middle that determines the length of the screw channel and determines that there is a screw channel, so it uses a drilling operation. Of course, it will have a margin, but all restorations will have. And also, it will have a secondary axis, like you see on the right here. The secondary axis determines the direction of the hybrid, especially if it's angled, but it mainly determines the insertion that the crown will go on top of, so it does better milling. Sometimes that's secondary axis is detected for screw-retained crowns when it shouldn't be. That should definitely be deleted. So if we go into MillBox, I'm going to open up that project, and you want to inspect to make sure that that cylinder, the green cylinder, is as long as the screw channel. Very often you will notice that the screw channel will not mill all the way. Sometimes the screw channel is just too long. It's longer than the tool, but oftentimes it's just because the cylinder wasn't correctly detected and it wasn't positioned all the way to where it should be ending. So 9 on the keyboard will make the unit transparent, and you will notice here that the cylinder is not reaching all the way to where that red is, which would be or the pink curve is, which would be the end of the screw channel. And that's a very quick fix under tools and curves and surfaces. You can change, adjust that cylinder by either increasing the height of it, or if you notice that it's positioned too low, you can change the position of it vertically as well. This is also available in the newer versions, and it's more visually easy to use than in previous versions as well. So this is definitely something that comes up quite a bit. And if you don't notice that until after you're done milling, you can always go back and fix it and resend the job to the mill as long as you haven't moved the unit from the disc or from the mill or the adapter. All right, and that will conclude the information that I had to share.
Great, Elona, thank you so much. We do have a couple of questions, if that's okay. The first one is, what mills can I use with MillBox?
Great question. MillBox is open software, and you can be used with almost any mill really. I know for sure it can be used with IMS and VHF because those are two we support. MillBox versions 4, and of course Roland. But you can get a complete list of all the mills at their website, millbox.com. It will list all of the options you have. And it's a great question because if you have multiple kinds of mills, you would want to use the same software, right? It's just easier to train everybody, or get used to the same software rather than have 2 or 3 different ones depending on which mill you're using, where it can become a little bit difficult to manage. And it's useful for shared use stock and everything else as well.
Okay, now there's another. It says, when should I update my software?
So usually software license expires on the end of the year. Software updates don't come out in January, but you can update as early as January. There's new, like I mentioned, new updates constantly being released throughout the year. It's not like the license can be skipped 1 year. So whether you upgrade in January or wait until May when the software comes out, it doesn't really make a difference. So the earlier, the better. That way, you know for sure that you are supported. You know for sure that your software is tested with, the latest version of your CAD software, and it's tested with the latest version of Windows. Windows 11 is coming out soon, so that's something to consider. And there's all sorts of things that will affect the performance of the software that will require the update. So it's best not to wait until it's necessary.
The next one is, how do I know what version of MillBox I have?
Great question. So you can check the version as well as whether you have the advanced or standard license. If you have MillBox open, on the top left, you click the icon. And go under support. And here it will tell you what the version is. So right now I have November 4th of 2022. And under Comfort Pack in Advanced, it will say enabled if you have those 2 options. Any new licenses are already sold with the Comfort Pack included. The Advanced Pack is an additional feature that needs to be purchased.
Great. And our last question was, where can I find the what's new with MillBox? And I see it right there.
Yeah, so you can find it here, or when you first launch MillBox, there is a splash screen, and if you click on that, it will open up everything.